Good morning. Our prelude today is The Swan from Carnival of Animals by Camille Saint-Saëns.
Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Orlando. My name is Beverly Alling. I'm a member of the congregation. We welcome all to join us as we explore our Unitarian Universalist faith, which draws us into a community of justice seekers with a commitment to lifelong spiritual growth and compassionate service to the community. For more information about our congregation, go to orlandouu.org or email WelcomeTeam@orlandouu.org. Our announcements for today will have links in our newsletter or on our website and will be repeated at the end of the service. After the service today at 11:30 is our usual fellowship, where we gather with each other to have a nice chat. One of the breakout rooms is the Welcome Center, where you can bring any questions you have about our church. Here's the meeting number and passcode. We'll repeat this slide at the end of the service. As usual, all are welcome. Conversations with the minister will resume on the third Sundays from 11:30 to 12:30. These conversations with Rev Margalie are open to anyone wanting to learn more about 1U. A fundraiser for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Haiti Emergency Response has been created to welcome the Rev Margalie Belizaire to 1U to honor her birthplace, which is Haiti. A 1U member has offered up to a $7,500 match for a total goal of $15,000. UUSC has received $1,385 as of September 13th from 1U members and friends. Please join in before the challenge match ends on September 30th, 2021. Funds can be donated two different ways, directly to UUSC or through 1U. Please see the details in the chat. Volunteers are needed for the Orlando Pride 2021 Parade and Festival on Saturday, October 9th. Please email prideparade2021@orlandouu.org to volunteer. Please join me in making an offering to support the many ministries of this congregation. You can go to orlandouu.org and click the donate button in the upper right corner. You can send a text or you can mail a check. Our Share the Plate this month is with the Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida. You can give to our Share the Plate partner directly on their website, but please let us know you've donated by dropping a line to programassistant1u@gmail.com. It's wonderful being here with you today. I'm so glad we're all together. Now, let us worship together once again.
Good morning. We're the Nelson family. This is Linnea, and I'm Ted. Unitarian Universalists light a chalice at the beginning of worship to set aside this time as a sacred time. Please say with us our familiar words. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, sustain, and to share.
We are called to worship this morning with the words of Reverend Sherry Woodbury, If We Imagine. What a world there can be if we imagine, if we share, if we care, if we act. What a world there can be if we're indivisible in heart and make the most of a one shot. Let us trust the seeds we plant in time will flourish and that we can create the tipping points for a better future for our children's children and the great web of life on earth. Let us make a new start. Come, friends, let us worship together.
Today we're reading the story, Say Something, by Peter Reynolds. The world needs your voice. Mine? Yes, yours. Go ahead. It doesn't need to be perfect as long as it's from your heart. You don't have to be loud. Powerful words can be a whisper. You can say something in so many ways, with words, with action, with creativity. If you see someone lonely, say something by just being there for them. If you see an empty canvas, say something with your brush. If you see an empty lot, say something by planting a seed and watching it bloom. If you see someone being hurt, say something by being brave. Hey, stop! If you see something beautiful, say something with a poem. If you have a brilliant idea, say something with confidence. Eureka! If you want to show the world who you are, say something with style. Ta-da! If you are angry, say something to help people understand. If you see an injustice, say something peacefully. Inspire others to do the same. Sometimes you'll say something and no one will be listening. But keep saying what is in your heart, and you will find someone who listens. Keep saying it, and you may be surprised to find the whole world listening. If you are grateful for being alive, quietly say something to the stars, to the universe. Some people find it easier to say something than others, but everyone has something to say. So when you're ready, say something. Your voice can inspire, heal, and transform. Your voice can change the world. Are you ready to say something? Thank you for listening to our story today, Say Something by Peter Reynolds.
As we gather together in prayer and meditation, I offer these words from Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Sandra Fees, that invites us to recognize that our decisions can include a holy moment of surrender. Another direction. The moment comes when a choice arises, a holy moment. A decision must be made. Do I remain as I am, or do I risk inching, leaping, flowing in another direction? Do I risk what I think I already know and already am? Do I forfeit my security for the possibility that a simple shift may alter the course of my life, even perhaps the life of another? I long to let go of all that restrains me so that I might pursue the impossible and surmount the insurmountable. To let go of anger, to let go of the need to be in control, to forgive a friend, to forgive myself, to refuse what thwarts my spirit, to refuse what limits my mind, to surrender to what will come, to surrender to this holy moment I have let slip away for too long. In this shared moment of quiet, may our hearts open to hope and healing. May our minds open to peace and possibility. As we gather in this community, we carry life's hurts and great joys with us. Sometimes sharing these joys and concerns in community begins the healing and expands the joy. I invite you, if you feel called, to share your life's events by writing a name or comments in the chat as this community holds you in love. And I'll begin with a joy. Jerry Throne found a joy in the pandemic. Thanks to last year's restrictions, she says, she found herself with ample time and no more excuses to failing to finish her World War II novel. And now the novel, Secret Battles, has been published and is available on Amazon. May we hold all these and one another in love and tenderness, so this congregation may be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. May it be so.
To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are many where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending the spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. Howard Zinn. Back in the very early days of 2020, when it dawned on us that the COVID virus, which was identified toward the end of 2019, was going to be something to contend with, we learned that there were things that we could do to slow down the spread and to flatten the curve. This would allow time for a vaccine to be developed and to not overwhelm the healthcare system. We learned to do simple things like washing our hands frequently, or very hard things like isolating ourselves from those outside our households, wearing a mask, and so many other things. Many of us did just that and more. Some went further. Remember wearing gloves to go to the grocery store? Oh my goodness, that was a lot of confusion for me, trying to figure out what I've touched and making sure I didn't touch my face with my gloved hands and so on. Eventually, I gave up on gloves, as did many others, and I upped my hand washing. We've heard the numbers. Over 664,000 people so far have died from this virus in the U.S. alone. And there have been 41.4 million cases up to now. That is a lot of bad around us. Yet, many of us continue in our own little corner of this big world, day by day, doing what we can to end it. We wash our hands. We minimize our contact with beloveds, as painful as that is. We get vaccinated. We wear masks in public, most times not for our own protection, but for our little ones who can't be vaccinated, for those who are immune compromised, and even those who simply refuse to get the vaccine and to wear a mask. We take care of one another the best that we can. As bad as the numbers are, as dire as the situation seems, I believe that it could have been much worse but for the successions of positive things that are being done daily. We are hopeful for a future free of COVID. We are hopeful of a future where we are acting for the good of the community. And we know that the only way to make that happen is to act in a way that could make such a future possible. As Zinn noted in our reading, there are many instances in human history where people have behaved magnificently. And those who are doing their part toward a COVID-free world is just one example of that. Yes, it is not lost on me that we would have been much further along if every single person was taking precautions. However, today, with the help of Howard Zinn's gentle reminder, I am choosing to see the best in us. The pandemic has brought us so much grief. It has also created the conditions for us to behave magnificently, and many have answered the call. This is just one case in our collective human history. There are countless others. The suffragists who organized and fought for women's rights, those who gathered in Selma, Alabama in 1965 to ensure African Americans' constitutional right to vote. Harvey Milk, the first openly gay elected official in the state of California, who was assassinated for his political activism. The young Greta Thunberg, environmental activist. Alicia Garza, Patrisse Cullors, and Opal Tometi, who started the Black Lives Matter movement. One News response to the Pulse nightclub shooting, and so many more. In defiance of all that is bad around them, around you, you choose to be hopeful and to work toward a better future. They are betting, you are betting, I imagine, as Zen wrote, on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. Yes, our history is one of cruelty. Many of the suffragists were jailed. Those who marched in Selma were attacked, and some even lost their lives. There is much more to be done to ensure that there will be a world for our descendants and their descendants, and for Black lives to be seen as valuable. At the same time, everything we do matters. We are continuously shaping the future, even in the small ways that we act. You might have heard about what's been happening in Canada right now. A group of people have been protesting at hospitals, denouncing pandemic measures. Well, first of all, politicians, not hospital administrators, are passing those measures. And secondly, these protesters are making it difficult for people seeking any kind of medical help to enter healthcare facilities. I heard the story of this doctor on NPR who has been counter-protesting all alone with a single handwritten sign that reads, "Protect hospitals." He mentioned generally he feels fairly safe, but there have been scary moments when he thought his safety was at risk. In spite of those moments, he felt it was important to show up and to speak up. How many people like him go unnoticed every day that we don't hear about? Because we need heroes, right? We single out certain people and say how great they are or were. We even bestow superhuman qualities on them and sometimes see them as exceptional. We talk about them as if their accomplishments were the products of their soul creation, that they needed no help or the support of others. I will admit, I do love a superhero. In fact, I am a big fan of Marvel Comics and grew up reading comic books. I have also seen all of the movies in the Avengers series. At the same time, I recognize that these are fictional characters of people's imaginations. And there are everyday people going about their lives, shaping a future as they think human beings should live. Sometimes those people do rise to the level of heroes, but they start out, I believe, as everyday people doing their part. And they usually have support of people around them. And to look at them any other way could result in us minimizing what we accomplish on a regular basis or what we could accomplish. Rosa Parks is an example of someone who behaved magnificently and had the support of an entire Black community behind her. When we tell her story, though, we leave those people out. We also have parents and other caretakers who are loving and guiding young ones into responsible citizens of the world, and countless people using their gifts, skills, and abilities, working towards the possibility of sending the spinning top of a world in a different direction. Last week, we commemorated the events of 9/11. What stood out for me this year, and maybe it's because they were talked about so much, is the story of the people of Gander, Canada, a tiny town with a population of less than 10,000 when 9/11 happened. All of a sudden, 7,000 strangers descended upon them without notice, needing to be taken care of. I'm sure there were grumblings, as that too is human nature. However, overall, this small community welcomed these displaced people, took them into their homes, fed them, and showed them compassion and kindness. Something a colleague pointed out to me as she and I were discussing the actions of the people of Gander is that, yes, on 9/11, a whole lot of folks suddenly descended upon the people of that town. However, they had been preparing for such an emergency. Though their town is tiny, they have one of the largest airports in the world, and they are a fueling stop for transatlantic aircrafts. They've worked that muscle of hospitality over time in the event that it was needed. I say that to make the point that sometimes it doesn't come natural to us to do the right things, to do the things that will lead to the future that we want to see. And that we might need to practice having the energy to act. If we aspire to live every day imagining, caring, planting seeds, we might create the tipping points for a better future, as Woodbury notes. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act, however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. Wow, thank you, Howard Zinn, for these words. I started this sermon talking about COVID and how we have been working toward a COVID-free future. I think about all the healthcare workers who have been putting their lives on the line from the beginning of this pandemic. I want to end with a first-hand account from a healthcare worker, one of our own, one new member and nurse, Jennifer Allen, answering the question, why do you do what you do in the midst of a pandemic, considering the risk to your life and that of your family? May we all be blessed by her sharing.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Allen, and I am a member of this church. Many of you know that I am a pediatric nurse. I have been a nurse for about 8 years now. I got started late into this profession, partly because I was a undocumented migrant and I couldn't go to school right after high school. But I jumped into the profession the moment that I could, and I have loved it ever since. I currently work in the cardiac ICU, and what that means is that I mostly work with babies, and I absolutely love it. I love working with kids, and as long as I have a choice and as long as I can help it, I'll only ever work with kids. And I'm doing this video kind of as I finish a string of very, very stressful shifts at work. And, when confronted with the question of why do this work, considering the risk to my own health and the risk to my family. And, the answer to that is really complicated. Like I said, I really love this work. I love that I feel like I'm making a difference in these kids' lives. I get to see a lot of these kids be in really awful health and just get better. And they're just doing the wheels on the bus because they're kids. And it's amazing to see that. I also feel a lot of privilege because I get to walk with parents in the health journey of their kids, and unfortunately, some of them don't get better, and which means that they also will die eventually, and so it's always sad when that happens. But I feel privileged that I can be a part of that and that I can somehow help parents work through that. What I think it's hard, and it's, what makes it a complicated question, is that these kids are what we consider fragile, and they really have no choice on whatever is happening to them, which means that they're dependent on us adults to do basically the right thing, right? And, I never expected to be working in the middle of a pandemic, but the right thing to do in the middle of a pandemic is get vaccinated, wear your mask, and do everything you can to basically stay healthy. If not for yourself, definitely for all of those kids that can't do it for themselves. You will not believe the number of kids right now who are hospitalized and having a really hard time. And it's not just like young kids. It's like the slightly older, like teenagers, but any of them, are dependent on the things that we do. And it's also hard because I have a child of my own, and currently my wife is pregnant, and so many stories I hear about pregnant people who are having a really hard time. And it's just hard. It's hard to go to work in that environment. It's hard to keep going every day. It's hard to press on, but I do because, again, like I said, it's what I love, and I want those kids. I want to have a hand in helping those kids get better. But I suppose I also need everyone's help to do that as well. This question of going to work every day, there is no question. I mean, I go because it's what I am meant to be doing in this moment. But I do hope that we get on the other side of this as soon as possible, because the level of stress I feel every day, selfishly, it's the level of stress that I feel every day. It makes it hard to do it, but I do it, and I love it, and I hope to be doing it for a long time.
We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We have reached the end of this time together, for letting the imagination play with future possibilities. Shall it be concluded then, or will this adventure now commenced continue? In your hearts lies the answer. Michael A. Schuler. Beloveds, worship has ended, and now the service truly begins.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.